Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3, a fantastic part. So many great things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I like that we do start off with Birds of Prey. Obviously, that's not something I am familiar with. I don't think I've ever seen the show. I do know it's on the CWC. I've just never checked it out. But it's interesting because she mentioned Barbara and Oracle. So I'm wondering, in that continuity, are those two different people? Or was she going Oracle and then going like Barbara, calling her by her real name? I'm just curious about that. First world we see kind of get wiped out. So that was interesting. And obviously the whole like hunt for like the other Paragons begin, and I do like that Cisco and Ralph are there, and and now it's this whole thing of like and Frost, and I love that whole situation of Cisco looking and like, whoa, super powered doppelganger. Yeah, this is weird because he's looking at a Superman version of Ray, so I like that a lot. So that was pretty dope. But I do like that we do get our other Paragons. Obviously, John being one, being the Paragon of honor, which is interesting because that makes you wonder, did Marnovu know the entire time the reason why he put so much time in? Maybe he had some inklings, maybe he had some feeling that John was going to be important to this fight. So I guess it's very like poetic that obviously John dealt with everything between him and Malefic, and obviously like, in a very honorable way, like trying to fix that situation. Obviously Barry being the Paragon of Love, which that fits totally, because obviously him and Iris, total endgame type of situation. But also we get introduced to Ryan, our seventh Paragon, the Paragon of Humanity, which is interesting. Side note, played by the same actor who plays Kevin on Supernatural. So that's a nice kind of parallel, especially because obviously Kevin popped up this season of Supernatural. So it's kind of very befitting, the whole CW connection in that regard. So I did like it. It's like, oh, superhero, and then we get to Kevin. I love that. I'm curious to see what that kind of means in the long run. But I think well, we kind of find out a little bit. Well, I'm skipping around here, but I like that obviously Ray, Ralph, and Iris go to track down Ryan. Which also I love the fact is that you have Ralph being there like, hey guys, like I'm here, and it's like, oh yeah, this is Ralph's, I was like, oh my god, this is Ralph's first crossover, and then they literally say, yeah, excuse him, this is his first crossover. I'm like, you literally said the thing. I love it. I got giddy about that, but it is like, yeah, because Ralph missed out on, because he was around during Crisis on Earth X, but because I forgot, because technically he was part of Elseworlds, but I guess they still don't technically count that. I guess I don't know. I guess they don't technically count that as him. Whatever the case may be, I just thought that was kind of pretty neat. Them saying that in the long run, but it was kind of neat because obviously like Ryan is a big fan of Ray, because it's like, oh my god, like your work, blah 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 blah. Which is like, it's kind of neat to see Ray kind of be celebrated as a celebrity. So that's actually pretty dope. And I love that it's like Ralph having to show off like, yeah, I'm a hero and everything. But for him, it's but for Ryan, it's like, but my family, I got to be there for them. Like, I'm not a hero. I can't save the universe or whatever trouble is happening. I need to go save, be with my family if this is going to be the end. And I think that's what kind of feeds into the whole humanity thing. Because I love that line from Iris where it's like, we're just normal people, but we remind the people that we love. We help remind the heroes what they're fighting for, I might not have superpowers, but I'm a reminder of the life that's here, that a reminder of like that you're not fighting just for nothing, that to come back home. Like for Barry, it's like a reminder of coming back home to me, a reminder of our love and our family is what you're fighting for, and so kind of reminder for Ryan of like, your family is going to be your, you kind of you're stepping up to be the hero, and saving your family, letting them be what makes you kind of rise to action. So I think that's kind of what that is, that even in the face of like, oh, everything ending, he still wants to be with his family. So I think he's supposed to represent, I guess, in just like the pillars that they're supposed to kind of represent. I guess that's the kind of totem that he's supposed to represent in that, kind of like Whereas, like, I think along the way with all the, I think, because obviously every one of the Paragons play their own role, and I think you need each one of them to fit together. Kind of almost similar to the whole, what was Bebo situation in season 3's finale of Legends of Tomorrow. A very similar thing in that regard. I think that's what the Paragons kind of represent. So you need kind of like almost like combining together to make Captain Planet, which I'm wondering, are they going to kind of do that angle? I never even thought about that till now. Well, the whole Bebo thing is kind of like a Captain Planet slash Mighty Morphin Power Rangers type of situation. We actually think about all powers combined, but more so Captain Planet. But I'm wondering, is that kind of what their avenue they're going by? Like, you need each of these parts to come together to make, but regardless, I'm going on a big tangent and everything. So I just thought that was kind of, interesting. We have John, Mia, and Constantine going to, basically they're trying to track down Oliver's soul, but because like all these different Earths have been destroyed, like literally at one point in the episode they're like, yeah, there's literally only 7 Earths left, and so it turns into this whole situation of like, because of that, magic's kind of out of balance, so they need to go and go to a different Earth so they can go to Purgatory and find Oliver's soul. And look, where do we land? Good old Earth 666. And we see our boy Lucifer, played by Tom Ellis. I'm losing my mind. I'm like, yeah. And he's introducing himself. And it's like, of course, John and Lucifer are going to know each other. I mean, all the time that John spent in hell and connected to hell and demons and stuff like that, it makes perfect sense that you would be on a first name basis. Hell, plenty of demons are on a first name basis with John. So why wouldn't Lucifer himself be? Which is interesting, though, that it's like, it's Lucifer from a different Earth, which part of me wonders, just because in the grand scheme of things, he's like, oh yeah, like, the worlds are ending and everything. It's like, well, to be fair, you're one of God's sons, so you're a cosmic being, so of course you know what's up. So, but it's just interesting to think about, because that must mean like he must be able to cross into other worlds to himself. It's probably, because I forgot, I'm stupid. Well, I do know that in the comic books that's what he does. He doesn't necessarily stay in one location. Like in the comic books, he does go to different worlds, different realms. The TV show just doesn't touch that avenue, so that should have been obvious to me, but I didn't click that together until just now. But I love it. I got so giddy, and him using his powers on me is like, she's like, Lucifer, Morningstar, as in, he's like, yes, the devil, and he's like, so what is it that you desire? And she's like, bring my dad back. And he's like, oh, daddy issues? Well, why didn't you tell me that? We could have jumped right. I'm like, I love it, because he does have major dad issues, which begs the question, what time frame does it take place? I feel like, I don't know if this, I mean, it depends, because obviously, like, we know Lucifer's coming back for a 5th and final season, so maybe this can kind of fit in that time frame. Maybe it's sometime in season 4, maybe it's between season 3 and 4, which is interesting when you actually think about connecting these universes, because obviously Tom Welling reprised his role as Clark Kent last part, and now, like, obviously he played Pierce, or rather Kane, in season 3 of Lucifer. So it's just the interesting connections of just everything literally folding in like that. But I love that. I'm like, oh my God. That was just, that's probably the cameo that got me the most giddiest. Like this one in particular, I've loved all the cameos, but that one got me, because I think I let that slip my mind until I saw something today that reminded me that was a thing. I was like, dude, I wish I hadn't seen that thing today. It didn't spoil the conversation or anything. It just spoiled that, because I completely forgot that Lucifer was going to be in this. So that was pretty dope. But what I also thought was interesting too is like, it's like, all right, he also said, I'm only helping you out as a thing for Maze. It's like, so what happened between John and Maze? How did he help out Maze? What's that all about? And, maybe we'll kind of find out in the future. Probably not, but they'll probably keep this, like, the whole situation super vague. If it ever comes to Lucifer, they probably won't really reference any of this. It's probably just for the sake of this crossover. But man, that's so dope, dude, to think about. So he kind of gives them a card that gives them the Purgatory, but it's like, yeah, if you get lost there, your soul will be trapped forever. Constantine's like, yeah, it's soul trapped forever, blah, 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 blah. So I even love him telling Diggle, is like, oh, you kind of remind me of my brother, tall, dark, and annoyed by me. And it's like, when you actually think about it, Diggle and Amenadal are kind of similar, so that is pretty dope. So they end up in Purgatory, which Purgatory looks a lot like Lian Yu. Go figure. Just because it's like, well, it'd be a place that Oliver himself kind of feels trapped in. And obviously this place holds a lot of memories for Oliver. Like, I mean, he literally was trapped on an island for a long time, which that's a whole complicated thing considering the fact that he left the island, which is also interesting too when you actually think about it, because literally, well, obviously Mia and John have been to the island before, but it's also, let's not forget, Constantine's been to the island too. Side note, I forgot little reference about the Lucifer thing I loved where he was like Constantine and Constantine was like, it's Constantine, and he's like, honestly, whatever, because I don't care. Part of me wonders, is that supposed to be a little nod towards DJ Wooldridge? Obviously, once again, from Only Stupid Answers. Because back in the day, in SourceFed Nerd, when Constantine, on NBC was out, he was always pushing for the whole Constantine, because I think that is the proper pronunciation. But I've never stuck with that. I've always been a Constantine person. I think most people are. But maybe that's just kind of a bit of a nerdy debate of whether it's Constantine or Constantine. So maybe that's just kind of a general, kind of nod to anyone that's ever called him Constantine. But it just makes me immediately think of DJ, because DJ's like the only person I've ever heard personally say, Constantine. So I just thought, I love that. I was like, I loved it. But nevertheless, they do find Oliver, and they are kind of able to kind of bring him back. And, Diggle feels so bad because it's like, nah, man, I promised I would be here with you during this crisis thing. I knew you'd have to face things alone, but I wasn't here to kind of fight by your side. So I'm sorry. Come back to me, bro. And it's like, he came back to him and Mia. But some dude shows up. I feel like I recognize the dude. It's a reference I know that's slipping on me. He calls himself a Spectre or whatever, which I'm like, I feel like that, because the way Constantine knows him, it must be some dude from season 4, like Leanne Youth season 4. It has to be, right? For it to be someone Oliver knows, and Constantine would be like, oh, you're this person. Or maybe there's just someone that Constantine knows. Maybe it's someone that we in the Arrowverse aren't supposed to know, but I feel like we are. That's one is kind of slipping, but he's basically telling Oliver, like, Oliver has to light something. He has to be the light, to kind of be the pill, because the reason why Oliver's so important in all of this is because he plays a key role in this, so he can't go back with it yet, which obviously means like, no, Dad, you have to come back, but for him it's like, this is where I have to stay, which I'm assuming all of that stuff is probably going to be potentially heavily covered in the Arrow portion of the crossover. That's how, at least probably like half the episode is going to be probably about what Oliver's up to and what that means in the grand scheme of things, of Oliver being a big role in saving the entire multiverse. So we'll see on that front. There was even this interesting conversation between Lois and Mona Vu, which I thought was kind of interesting, because for her it's like, the reporter in her is like, literally like, I'm here part of a world universe ending. No, universal endings all across the board, because I'm trying to say universes plural. Sorry, I'm butchering this so hard. But there's not going to be anyone to read or listen to her like report on it. So, which Mona Vu kind of talks about the whole conversation of like, the fact of the matter is, it's not just all these other people that have lost things. He's lost a lot. He's lost his family, and for him it was like, because it's not until now that he kind of recognizes how he kind of let his work kind of consume him. And I thought that was such an interesting little thing, because like Mona Vu is like, we know so little about him. Like, he's still just kind of like a figure that plays a part in all of this. But that was like a little bit of a character moment. I was learning like, oh, he has a family. Even his entire world is gone and everything. But like, a lot of that is still kind of shrouded in mystery. I'm curious if they're going to really unveil more of that going forward. Maybe, obviously the whole anti-monitor thing, because later on he says something where it's like, I should have never made you, or something like that, which was interesting. It sounded, if I could be remembering, but I think that's what he said, that he did make the anti-monitor. So it's like, what that necessarily all entails. So, and then you had, Lois talking with the other Superman, Brandon Routh's Superman, and I thought that was kind of an interesting conversation, because obviously for him it's like the whole thing of like trying to save lives, but it's not working, because obviously the whole point was to save as many people from other Earths and try to get them to Earth 1, because Earth 1 is supposed to be the last one on the list of Earths that get wiped out. And so for him, it's frustrating, but obviously he's not giving up hope. And she brings up the whole, like, why his sigil, whereas the typical sigil is yellow for Kara and her Clark, it's like, why is yours black? But for him, it's a symbolism of like, even in the darkest time, that there's always going to be a light that breaks through. And I was like, oh, I like that there is like symbology behind that. And I think obviously it means a lot, especially for him. Probably like that symbolizes so much more because of all that he's lost, not just Krypton, just all the people in his life on his world, which obviously that eventually gets destroyed. Which also begs a question, like, what happens to someone like Lucifer in a multiverse wiping thing like the antimatter? Like, considering you're a cosmic being, like, would that affect you? Would that affect you and your brother? Like, I'm assuming everyone else is kind of screwed, but was that? I mean, I'm assuming it kind of affected them. They're never going to answer that, but I assume it's supposed to represent the fact is that even they get wiped out by it. But we'll ultimately have to wait and see. Well, I say that, but like I said, we're probably not going to see. But I'm just curious about it. Then there's the whole situation of the Monitor kind of being a dick. And, like, obviously, like, Cisco left his powers behind being the whole vibe. Like, he left that behind because it's like, that's not the path he wanted down his life. Because I could still help out being a part of Team Flash, just being myself, because, smart enough on his own. But the Monitor was like, the fact is you may not be a Paragon, but you're still going to be needed for this, and give Cisco back his powers. It's kind of like thrusting it upon him. It's kind of like, yeah, Monitor's kind of a dick like that, where it's just kind of like he kind of sees the whole puzzle board, so he's kind of moving them all the way he kind of wants them to, which is interesting that for him to kind of be like that, and then having that one moment of sincerity with Lois, I thought was kind of fascinating. So, but with Frost and Cisco goes to, and him and Barry, they all go to that underground tunnel. Lo and behold, who shows up? Nash, who's going by Pariah, because I was wondering what that whole thing was, which obviously a very befitting name. It turns out that basically everything was the antimatter. Like, basically the antimatter, the anti-monitor was manipulating him the entire time, so pushing him into that position. But that's what he's supposed to be, like an observer. So I'm supposed to, I can't interfere directly. I'm meant to just stand here and watch everything kind of get undone, because I'm the one that freed the anti-monitor and everything, which also, I guess that's why, in the grand scheme of things, why Nash wanted Marnovu dead, because it's like, it's like you're a false god. Maybe he had come to Nash before, and it's like so much was lost that maybe Nash couldn't get it back, even though it's like, oh, you're supposed to be a god and you didn't get it back for me. But maybe probably blaming the anti-monitor for, everything, because of, Marnovu's the one that made him and everything. So maybe that's kind of what he's getting at. But luckily they go inside, and basically we learned that basically the antimatter wave is coming from an actual weapon. And lo and behold, we find Earth 90 Barry Allen running, being the weapon for it, which is interesting tying that in, because we haven't seen him since he got popped, since the Monitor made him disappear at the end of part 2 of Elseworlds, as we saw. So I thought that was kind of interesting that the anti-monitor got him at some point, and now is using him as a means of using that as a power source. But luckily, no positive energy can get through. But Cisco is able to kind of, vibe open, a breach to kind of push him through, which was pretty dope. It's like, hey, saved him and everything, but he's like, but you got to put me back up there, because the fact is, if you stop me being on this is making it so only one world gets destroyed at a time. If you don't have anyone on it, like, it goes nuclear and wipes out the entire multiverse all at once. So at the very least, this bought them time. And while this is all happening, while they're debating all this, your boy Jeff shows up, because apparently it wasn't the Monitor that brought him in. It was Pariah, which begs the question, was that because, in that moment he was able to do that, or was that because the anti-monitor wanted that to happen? I don't know. Obviously, Jeff is kind of pissed because he's like, what's going on? And then, like, him and Barry striking lightning at each other. It's, no, Jeff, this is happening. But obviously, Jeff learning like he's on a different Earth. Literally no time to process the fact is that his family's going. But Jeff's is pissed. It's like, you should have saved my family, didn't save me. But it's like, we needed you, Jeff, for this. So Jeff is using his lightning to kind of contain the power of the antimatter cannon. And so it turns into this whole thing of like, and I even love it, like both Barrys go into flash time to slow time down to be like, all right, we got to figure out what we can do. We got to find some other way around this. And obviously, I like, Barry saying, guys, obviously his experience as a speedster, because obviously for Barry, it's like, I got to get back to my wife, Iris, which, Earth 90 Barry is like, the fact is, I was married too. The fact of the matter is, I know that need, but having, the fact of the matter is there are points in time where it's like you got to basically take a step back and see the bigger picture, and that kind of got Barry thinking and like, let's go in reverse. So rather than feeding the machine and gaining it all this energy, let's run backwards and basically trap all that energy into the cannon and make it absorb it and eventually destroy itself. And Barry was willing to do this because for him, it's like, this is what the Monitor was setting me up for. Like, all that newsletter in that room, that's what my path has been about. This is how I stop everything. This is how I stop the anti-Monitor wave. This is how I protect the people I love. And I love him being like, Caitlin, Cisco, you two were there when I first opened my eyes as the Flash. And it's like, it's like for you two to be here at the end, it's like, tell, Joe and tell Iris I love them. And especially because, like, that flashback of when Iris was helping, convince Ryan to help, the fact that she was thinking about Barry, and, Barry's thinking, like, this might be the end and everything, but Iris is like, don't do anything without me. I want to be by your side during this. But it's like, he's like, no matter what, I put this ring on your finger meant that no matter what happens and where I go, like, I will always come running back home to you. But, there's part of Barry that I think was saying that, thinking, like, he probably wasn't going to come back from this. So, but... Barry's willing to make that sacrifice, but in that moment, Earth 90 Barry steals his speed temporarily, and it's like, I have to be the one. It says a Flash has to die during this crisis event. It never said that it had to be you, and he ultimately makes the sacrifice, telling Cisco, it's like, you want to save your friend, right? Then this has to be done. And Cisco breaches him onto it, and he does it, and it's like, even giving his nod to Jefferson Pierce, saying, like, you're a good man and you're a great hero, and he sacrifices himself, and it's like, Cisco's in that tough position because it meant saving his best friend, and it's like, that's a tough choice. You made me the leader, and the leaders have to make tough choices. So I just thought that was kind of a powerful moment. And especially, it's like, you have, like, Barry Allen kind of running, especially, once again, it still got to hurt a little bit considering the fact is Earth 90, Barry Allen looks like your dad too, so that's also gotta hurt as well. And him dissolving like that, and I like the little flash. I'm not familiar with the show, but I do like the flashback to what I'm assuming is supposed to be his wife from the show and everything. So it's like in that last moment, like our Barry would think about Iris in his last moment, he thinks about his wife in the last moment. And that was heartbreaking, especially him disintegrating like that, saving the day, and like his lightning bolt being like the last thing left of him. It's just like, that was so heartbreaking. And for he saved Earth 1, like Earth 1's the last line of defense, and that's it. So it's like, dude, that was a sucky situation. And it's like, everyone's reunited, but it's like, Barry made that sacrifice for them. So it's like, they were luckily able to stop all this. And a lot of interesting conversations go on at the same time. It's like, especially Barry and Jefferson, because Jeff, it's a whole situation of like his family being gone, which obviously Barry, because I was thinking like maybe Oliver, there'd be a connection there, but obviously Oliver didn't come back. But there's an interesting connection between Barry and Jeff because there's kinship in that. The fact of the matter is, going through what they've gone through, because the fact is Barry brings up the whole situation with his dad. It's like, yeah, that Barry Allen, he actually looked like he looks exactly like my dad. Everything my dad went through, and going to prison for a murder, murdering my mom, which he didn't do, framed by one of my enemies. And the whole aspect of, his dad always kept like, that hope alive was, bright. And I think for Barry, he tries to strive every day to keep that same energy, which even Jeff can kind of understand too, because, they literally went through parallel things, because it's like his dad was murdered when he was young. So it's like they both lost a parent at a very young age, and it helped mold them into the people that they are today. It's like the life lessons that were instilled in them by their parents, kind of made them who they are. And I just thought that was kind of a beautiful aspect to it. And, it was like a beautiful moment, like this beautiful like moment of, superheroes meeting from different Earths and everything. I didn't even, I'll get to that in a second since it's kind of connected, but I did like that, Jefferson said like, together, let's fight back against the dying of the light. And Barry quotes where it comes from. And Jeff is like, all right, Flash. And he's like, Barry Allen. And Jeff is like, Jefferson. I'm like, dude, these are some monumentous moments right here. That's so freaking dope. Especially because, like, obviously, like, Jeff likes to quote people. I'm sure for him it's just kind of like, all right, I see you, Barry Allen. But I love he walks out there. He's like, whoa. So the Superman thing, that's not just a legend, that's not just a myth or whatever, which I'm like, dude, that's so interesting, because obviously on Earth 1 Batman is considered a myth, because Oliver is like, no, I was the first vigilante, but it's like, no, obviously Batman was doing his thing before you showed up and everything, Oliver. But it's kind of interesting to know that obviously that's what happens on Earth 1, that Batman's a bit of a legend, and to turn out on Jeff's Earth, Superman's a bit of a myth. So I love that, and especially because there's literally two Supermen standing in front of him, a Superman, and there's also Supergirl too. So that's so dope. I just thought that was pretty dope. But speaking of Supergirl, I like that element of what they're setting up, the whole Kate and Kara situation, because Kara is dead set on bringing back her world. She goes to Lex to be like, is it a way to do that? And obviously I like Kate going a little heavy-handed, because it's like, yeah, that's the Bat way to do it. Like, obviously the Supers have their way, the Bats have their own. I love that. And he's like, does this work in Gotham? And she pushes his arm even more, which I'm like, yeah, this super works in Gotham. Like, I don't know what you expect, Lex. Oh, that's super effective in Gotham. But basically, he was driven by, like, it's basically kind of on your emotions and your intent. And basically, his intent was to kill all Superman. But obviously, his situation was a little more isolated. Yes, it was across the multiverse, but it was on one specific target across each planet on the multiverse. Whereas Kara's literally trying to bring back an entire planet, in particular hers, but not just hers, just every other planet. So I'm trying to rebuild a multiverse would be kind of a hard thing. Even just rebuilding one planet would be an issue. And Kate's trying to talk her away from it, because it's like, who knows if you're going to do more harm than good. And I like that kind of conundrum she's in, because she obviously, Kara's a friend and an ally, but she doesn't want to do that, especially like using the kryptonite. It would mean kind of almost doing what Bruce had said, of just basically not trusting anyone, kind of letting that, fear and doubt kind of consume you and be your everything. So I thought that was such a neat element to kind of put Kate in that position as she's trying to talk Kara out of this. It's like, the fact of the matter is, for Kara, it's like, but this is, I'm supposed to be the paragon of hope, so I have to kind of do this. But Kate, it's like, the fact of the matter is, what if you do something wrong and you're a big part of this, not just as a paragon, but who you are as a person. You're so hopeful. You're a focal point in all of this. So if we lose you, we're screwed. So she convinces Kara to stop, and later on she ends up giving Kara she was trying to give her the kryptonite, be like, Bruce gave it to me, but the fact is I don't need this, because obviously you stopped on your own. But she's like, keep it, because hopefully you'll have the courage that you'll never have to use it. Which part of me is like, she's keeping it means like might be some need for that later on. So there's that. Then there's Lila showing up, and she's like, oh, reunited with Diggle. And it's like, oh, I was on Earth 1 doing. It's like, yo, what were you doing? I can't remember. I'm like, yeah, this looks super shady. And it's like, the fact of the matter is, her showing up now and everything, it's like, what if the Anti-Monitor was controlling her the entire time? Which I'm wondering, like, ever since she popped up as Lila, or rather the Harbinger, gathering everyone up, because I guess in the long run, this kind of made his job easier. Basically, get all this work done to gather up all the heroes, gather up all of the Paragons, get them all in one spot and wipe them out. That's probably like the main plan or the reason why behind all this. Because once again, the Anti-Monitor Monitor didn't realize like his connection with Lila would present the Anti-Monitor with the way in. And obviously Lila's being possessed by the Anti-Monitor, and she kind of knocks everybody down. First Diggle, then knocks Brandon Routh's Superman away. And kind of like, I guess almost like using kind of this anti-wave or whatever, just kind of pushing everyone down under pressure. The Monitor tries to step up and fight, but ends up getting killed because, once again, either just pure having faith, or he knows something more with this whole situation. But regardless, the Anti-Monitor gains all that power, and obviously it's up to, Pariah to kind of like, step in when the times come, because the moment, like, his grip from the Anti-Monitor was freed and everything. And I even like that too, because even Brandon Routh's Superman was kind of like, the fact of the matter is, you're here, you're supposed to bear witness to tragedies, and this was one tragedy of a moment, because in that instance, Pariah sends all 7 of the Paragons away. Everyone else gone in that instance, which is like, wow. Especially because it's like now all of Earth 1 is gone and everything and everyone on that ship is going. It's like literally the entire universe, the multiverse is empty because this is all about, making, bringing over. The only thing that's going to exist is the antiverse, like the antimatterverse. And, which is interesting. I'm wondering, is the Anti-Monitor going to continue looking like Lila going forward, or is he going to take his own original form? We'll kind of see. But all of them being sent to the one place. What was it called again? The Paragons get sent to the Vanishing Point. Jeez, I can't believe I forgot that. Which we have not seen that in a long time. The last time we saw that was the Time Masters back in season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow. So to bring that back like that, and to me, and it's the perfect place. It literally exists outside of time and space. So even the Monitor can't find them, and even the wiping of the multiverse doesn't affect that area. I mean, I guess maybe it'll get to the point eventually it will stretch out beyond that. But it's like, all right, so what do they do now? Because like there's literally nothing to go back to. Even though Barry's like, dude, Iris. Because I was thinking everyone was going to get teleported, but it's like, nah, only the essentials got teleported. And obviously it's the whole point of like, Iris is saying it, and so is Black Lightning. The fact of the matter is they're going to be away from you, and they're going to find a way to stop you, which is like, holy crap. Obviously we knew this was going to end off on a big cliffhanger, but obviously, like, I think got to give major props to Roxy Stryer on Collider Live, kind of saying like she figured that part 3 was most likely going to be like, if you had to compare it to like the whole MCU situation, that this was going to be their Infinity War, and it super is ending on a bit of a bummer. It's like, holy crap. Literally, you guys are the only 7 left. Oh, correction, make that 6 technically, because like something starts happening to Brandon Routh. Superman was like, what's happening? I was like, are your powers, all of your powers going to start slowly leaking out or something? Like, oh, what's happening here? It's like, he's dying. I was like, oh, is he about to die? I was like, what's happening? And he turns into Lex Luthor. I was like, what? Lex basically set this whole thing up ahead of time. He knew that eventually it was kind of his last middle finger, because now he basically killed the last Superman in the world. Granted, there's still another Kryptonian beside him, but I'm sure that's a situation he's going to remedy immediately. So I was like, holy crap, that's nuts. I mean, I guess Lex, like I said, he kind of got the last laugh in that situation. He killed Superman. He literally killed the last Superman in the multiverse. It's like, holy crap. So basically, I guess the way he wrote it on the pages is like, oh yeah, I decided to kind of make some changes. So he's now the Paragon of Truth, which is ironic considering him being the maniac that he is. So it's like, now we've got these whole group of heroes and this one major supervillain. It's not even like, oh, we're not going Legends of Tomorrow where it's like, oh, we've got Captain Cold and Heatwave villains. It's like, no, we're dealing with like the bad guy who's willing to kill millions of people just trying to kill Superman. So it's like, so where do we go from here? So obviously he's going to play ball because it means, well, not dying. So he wants to live, so obviously he's going to make sure they, work through all this. But now it's like, we got to work with the one person in the universe we shouldn't work with or can't work with. Let's not forget, Kate also has kryptonite. That's going to end up somehow in Lex's hand. He's going to have advantage. We'll see, but that is such a desperate situation. I didn't even think about it at the time, because obviously you can think of like them all being turned into dust by the end. Like, once again, you can make comparisons. I just think it's kind of interesting, because now it's like we're down to like these 7, technically 8, because let's not forget Oliver's still at play. He's just in purgatory, and what that necessarily means for him. Maybe purgatory kind of works outside of the realm of life and everything, because it kind of is death and everything. So maybe it kind of exists in its own realm. Like I said, maybe when we get to part 4 of this, it'll kind of cross over and be like, okay, this is, explain what Oliver was going through maybe before purgatory itself got wiped out. Regardless, like I said, hell of a way to end off, this section of the crossover. Obviously, we're going to be waiting a little over a month for parts 4 and 5, which are both going to premiere on January 14th. I'm so excited to see what they have in store for us with these next 2 parts. It's going to be nuts. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.